Today on Geek Devotions, we're talking about con life and a con dad. What is happening here? Celeste, something's happening on the planet Geekery right this second.
Glix, Priority Alpha Command, open comms, now.
Loading Geek Culture language patches. Loading spiritual applications. Loading grace and hope directives. Comms opening in 3, 2, 1.
Hello, devoted geeks, and welcome to Con Talk, podcast extension of Geek Devotions. This is the podcast that is devoted to letting people know that they're loved. So if you don't watch past this moment, know this: we love you, we care about you. There is a plan and a purpose for your life. Do not give up. Today, ladies and gentlemen, I am excited beyond belief because we're going to have a really cool guest on the show, and that is John Stout. He is a professional cosplayer. He makes amazing cosplay. And what I love about John is his heart for the cosplay community. And we're going to talk about some of the really special things that can take place in the cosplay community and spaces as a whole. And John has a really unique role. He's often called a con dad because while on the con floor, he takes care of people. And it's a really cool thing that he does. And so we're going to get into that here in just a moment. But I want to put this out here first. We had some technical difficulties on the back end of the podcast. We actually lost the feed for a second. So you're going to see some editing take place towards the end of the episode. On top of that, however, because of all the stuff, we forgot to mention something really important to John. Outside of building cosplay and all sorts of stuff, he is actively collecting books to donate to a local prison for the prisoners there. The local prison that he's by, they don't necessarily have a budget for the library. He wants to supply them with things that are helpful, that are life-giving and encouraging. And so he's going to be making spaces at his booth for you guys to donate books if you'd like to donate books. And if you have more questions about that, I really want to encourage you guys to get in touch with John specifically. We will have all the links in the description down below for you guys to do that. That being said, today, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into today's conversation. All right, devoted geeks, we are here with the Kettlebriar of Kettlebriar's Workshop. How you doing, John Stout?
Fantastic this evening.
Oh man, I'm so excited to have you on. Those of you who watch devotions on a regular basis, you may recall seeing John looking like the strange tentacle creature behind him in one of our episodes from GeekCon this past summer. John is he's a cosplayer, he's a prop maker. You do all kinds of stuff. But let's take people back. What exactly is Kettlebriar's Workshop?
That is the name that I gave to what is now an actual workshop.
Yeah.
It just covers, I do stuff from cosplay out there in the workshop. I build props in the workshop. I've built furniture. I've actually built my daughter and her husband. I made a Fallout video game nightstand for them.
That is
I made
awesome.
my best friend Green Lantern coffee table with all the covers and storyboards from all the famous Green Lantern comics over the years
Wow.
on top of the table, and the Green Lantern logo lights up and shines on the ceiling of the room.
That
You
is
know, I have LED
amazing.
in there. So I build other stuff out of the workshop other than just cosplay.
Right. That is amazing. You like I had the opportunity to see your Newt Cola cosplay a couple years ago. And then the year before last, you showed up at GeekCon with the mayor from Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yes.
And I loved the thought you put into the design of it because it was a lot more relaxed than the Newt Cola armor. So like, do you have a background in construction or like, how did you get into prop making and stuff like this?
ADHD.
Oh, that works.
Well,
ADHD, I love it.
high functioning anxiety with I'm on the autistic spectrum, ADHD.
Right.
Uh, Throughout elementary school, I entered every social studies fair all the way through high school
Word.
and won all the way to state competition with every single social studies fair project all the way through high school. And that should have been my cue then when we didn't realize back in those days, you know, no one labeled anything back then, but that should
Right.
have been my cue when I would hyper focus
Oh yeah,
on
yeah.
arts projects back then. You know, I love getting into building stuff with my hands
That's
because it let me
awesome.
hyper focus on something and that would keep my attention.
Word. I love that. That's so good. All right. Well, let me ask you this: what got you into cosplaying specifically? We know your hyperfocus got you into construction, but the cosplay world, you're really found a niche in this. You're doing you're a judge at cosplay competitions, all kinds of stuff. So how did you get into cosplay?
Um, well, we did role-playing games, tabletop role-playing games for years. I mean, going back to elementary school, we did
Yeah,
tabletop role-playing games. I mean, Star Wars, all kinds of stuff.
I love it.
And, so we would go to gaming conventions, and we'd been going to conventions for like 30 years. You know, we got back into it back in like Star Trek conventions back in the day before Comic Cons, you know.
Right.
Uh, I know I'm a little older than most of the Comic Con people, cosplayers you see out on the floor these days, but don't care. It's part of one of my panels. Actually, it's called Cosplays for Everybody, no matter your age or
I
size.
love it.
But
Yeah.
we started going to like Star Trek events, and we would, you know, we bought some Starfleet uniforms for Star Trek,
Wow.
uh, just to fit in. And when we started doing all the Comic Cons, we went to many, you know, just as normal attendees,
Right.
and then decided, hey, if we could just throw on something simple, we could be cosplaying, but still just walking around as normal. So we got some military fatigues and did Stargate by just
What?
putting some patches on the arm. So,
I love that so
you know,
much.
you're wandering around, you're in costume,
Right. It's a
but
low key
in regular
cosplay.
clothes.
Yeah.
And my friend, he wanted to get into cosplay. He wanted to build uh I helped him build a Green Lantern costume,
Wow.
and we went to Fan Expo Dallas, and it changed his life, you know, just having people come up wanting pictures with him, and I'm like, "Oh, well, that's really cool. I should build something." And my daughter's favorite video game was Fallout. I mean,
Okay.
to the point that when she got married, they played the music from the video game while they were seating all the guests. So I'm like, I think I'm gonna do Fallout.
That's awesome.
And I have a dad bod. I don't have a superhero bod. I will never be in spandex tights. So I wanted to build something large enough to cover my body.
Right.
And so I took things from the Fallout video game that I played. There's a thing called a Nukatron in the Nuka World DLC from the Fallout video game, which is Fallout's now one of the number one TV shows
Yeah.
on Prime now, I believe. And so I took that and I took a Nuka-Cola machine from the game and I combined them and made my own original thing. And then I went to a convention hosted by Bethesda, who is the company that made the game, the big
Yeah.
multi-million dollar company. You know, they actually had their own convention out in Dallas. It
Right.
wasn't a Comic Con, you know, it was a gaming convention.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
As soon as I suited up and walked across the floor in that, Bethesda came up to me. They're people, and they're like, "Oh my god, can we video you and put you out there?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, sure, sure." They're like, "You're in the contest, right?" And I'm like, I said, "I don't do the gaming against other people. I don't do landline game." They're like, "No, no, 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 the costume contest." I'm like, "What costume contest?" They're like, "You're gonna be in the contest, right?"
They're like, we're signing you up right now.
And I'm like, I said, "Oh, okay. I don't want to go up because there's people that travel the country just
Yeah.
to get in these contests, you know,
Sure.
do this professionally and just go mop the floor with people." And I'm like, "There's no way." So that was the first costume I ever built, like built myself
Right.
outside Stargate or Star Trek, you know, just pretty much buying a costume.
Right.
So I'm like, "There's no way I can go up against these people." So I told the guy that with me because I have to have a handler
Right.
when I'm wearing that thing to help suit me up and walk so I don't trip and kill small children because
Good thing.
I can barely see out of it. And yeah, it's just this one little seam right here. I'm just barely peeping through it.
Are you for reals?
And
Oh my gosh.
I entered that contest and I looked and seen who else was there. And I told my buddy, I said, she's gonna win third. They're gonna win or she's gonna win second and they're gonna win first. I'd already picked, you know, and I made it as a finalist. And I was
Yeah.
like, "What?" So I was one of the finalists. So then I got to go back, and when they finally made their announcements, the person I said who was gonna win third, won third. The person who I said was gonna win second, won second. And then they announced the first place grand prize winner for the big Bethesda $2,000 grand prize. And when they said my name, I almost, I
Wow.
wish I had the Pins undergarments on about that time. I was just flabbergasted, blown away when they picked mine.
Right.
I and I don't know if that was a good thing or the bad thing, because ever since then, boom, that was the
That
that
cooked
was
you
the
in.
that was the hook. That it's like, wow, you can have fun doing this, because the applause that I got, it was just how much people love that creation.
Yeah.
It wasn't about the money or competition. I don't who competitions are horrible. I don't like doing competitions, but yeah, it definitely got me started. And then my same friend who liked the Green Lantern, he wanted to do a Star Wars costume, so he did
Right.
some Mandalorian armor from Star Wars. So we decided, we'd always play off one another. When I did that Fallout, he did a Fallout character to
Oh,
walk
cool.
with me. So when he did his Star Wars character, that's when I made my original Star Wars character, and I did the Grogu and frozen in carbonite
Yeah.
as my prisoner,
That it was a
and
great
to
one
to
too.
play off him,
Right.
you know, and which I just remade that one. I just wore it to Fan Expo. That was the very first
Really?
Fan Expo New Orleans. I just totally I got a new 3D printer here
Oh.
recently, and it's like 10 times better than my old one. And where I've always been a foam smith,
Uh-huh.
that's what I work with. There's cosplayers out there that are seamstresses, that focus on that. And then there's
Right.
foam smiths, and there's people who use Warbler, and there's just people who just 3D print.
Right.
Well, now I'm learning sewing. I'm getting into Warbler. I'm getting into 3D printing. I'm trying to
Wow, you're expanding out.
combine it all, learning new techniques.
That's amazing.
And so I just remade that Star Wars outfit
Yeah.
recently and
That's
premiered
awesome.
it at Fan Expo New Orleans. I'm working on a new well, I'm working on several at any given time, but the one that I'm gonna premiere in a couple of weeks at Louisiana Comic-Con is a lot simpler because I'm not building it.
Okay.
I'm just sort of piecing stuff together. It's from One Piece,
Oh, yeah.
the anime, the
Yeah.
manga, the new live action TV show on Netflix.
Right.
Uh, I'm doing a character from that. That's actually why I'm growing this out and going white with it, and I gotta put white in my hair too, but we'll see. I'm working on it.
That's awesome, man.
It'll be another one of those where I'm not walking around in armor sweating to death all day,
Right.
That's
Yeah,
that's what I'm trying to get away from. Something where I can sit in a chair,
yeah.
you know?
Definitely. Well, that brings up an interesting question. What has been your favorite cosplay to do? I know that like some of them, they're hassle sometimes. I've seen some. I remember my bride Celeste. She cosplayed as a character from Lore Olympus, and my baby love. She painted her face just blue, and then she was struggling with contacts. It was she loved it, but it was a pain in the
I
tail
hate
side.
contacts.
So, what is your favorite cosplay that you've ever done?
Uh, that's impossible,
Oh wow!
because you have a love for all of them.
Right?
I mean, I love the Nucatron, but it's a niche. If you haven't played Fallout or know the Fallout video game series, you don't really get it,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you know? But I like it,
Yeah.
but I hate it because it weighs as much as walking around carrying an entire person on your back all day, and, my back's not what it used to be.
Right.
Uh, the mayor of Halloween Town, of course, as a 30-year-old Disney movie, so everyone gets it, is
Right.
readily recognizable from a Disney film,
Right.
so I get the most reaction from it, and just so many people enjoy seeing it and interacting with me
Right.
while I'm in it that, I have a lot of fun with that one.
Right.
So it's one of the most fun, and, uh, yeah, I've had so many celebrities come up to me in that one asking me for pictures. I mean, I've I think we were up to 10 different celebrities now that have come up to me
Wow.
asking me for videos and pictures while wearing that thing,
That's
because they
amazing.
were just like, we've been going to cons for years. Chris Sarandon, who played Jack Skellington
Yeah.
in well, you can't see it, I'm wearing Jack on my
Hey.
shirt here. Uh, he played Jack Skellington in Nightmare Before Christmas at Dallas this past summer. his people saw me from across the way. And you got to know, this man had 100 people in his
Oh
line.
yeah.
And they put up the sign like, hey, taking 5 minutes, we'll be back. They told me don't go anywhere because I couldn't make it out there. It was like so crowded. If you've ever
Sure.
been to one of the big fan expos, tens of thousands of people crammed in there.
Yeah.
And they told me don't go nowhere, stay put. She just kept motioning to me, don't move. And he come up to me and said, man, I've been going to cons for 30 years. He said, I've never seen anyone do anything like this. Because you have people dressed as Jack and Sally and people who
Sure.
just wear costumes and put on clothes, but never do they build
Yeah.
something like that. I've saw one person actually put on a suit, put on a hat, and dress as the mayor.
Right.
But I tried to make mine screen accurate.
Yeah.
But I'm
Yeah.
6'1". So I'm like, where am I going to do his legs? And because he's like 4 foot tall.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in the movies, he's a two-faced politician. Literally, his head spins to two different
Right.
faces, and he's two-faced politician standing on his soapbox. So
Right.
I built his soapbox from the movie, and that's where I hide my legs.
Right.
I put this one on wheels this time, so I can just
So much
wheel
easier.
it around. I thought of putting a chair in the thing too. It's got cup holders in there and fans, and I learned my mistakes from the big old heavy hot box of the Nucatron, which that's about all it is a hot box.
Right.
But yeah, I've wheeled around cons in that mayor, and like he came up to me and asked to do pictures and videos, and then he got on social media and posted them all over the place on Instagram,
Wow.
Facebook, all over. About 15 minutes later, uh, I can't really see what I'm doing in that large costume.
Sure.
So I kept stepping across the tape lines that they have on the floor in there, and there's guys that they hand T-shirts to that say security or volunteer that
Right.
you think they just because they have on that shirt now they think they're a SWAT team member or something. And I kept crossing that tape because I couldn't see that I was crossing the tape, getting into someone else's line,
Right.
and I wasn't even in a line. I'm just trying to get out of everyone's way.
Sure.
And he had already come up to me once and put his hand on my shoulder and said, "Sir, you need to move." And I felt someone else's hand come onto the shoulder of the mayor again, and I was about to turn around and let this young fella, have a piece of my mind. And that head spins, and I see out the mouth, and I spun that head around, and I'm staring at Danny Elfman,
What?
who did the music from Nightmare Before Christmas, who's never been to a Comic-Con ever. And he's like, "This is the coolest thing ever. Can I have my picture made with you?" And I'm sitting here once again like, what more
This is
could have I have
amazing.
asked for, that these two happened to be there and come up to me.
Yeah.
And luckily my friend was there and got it all on,
That's
got pictures to
amazing.
prove that it really happened. And then he got on social media and tagged me and put me all over the place. And I
Right.
was just like, oh my goodness. And I had one celebrity that did a video of me coming up to her in it, and she posted it, and it got like 250,000 views. It went viral.
Right.
It's, so that was the most fun because it's the most recognizable. Everyone enjoys it because they recognize it.
Right.
Like my new one over here, this tentacled creature, he's known as a mind flayer.
Right.
The number one video game in the world last year, game of the year, was Baldur's Gate 3.
Right.
These are the villains from that game.
Yeah.
And it's not finished yet, actually. I'm still working
Really?
on it. It's just a long process.
It looked
'Cause
pretty
I've
amazing
sewed
at
all
GeekCon.
I've sewed, I've done epoxy resin work on it. I've
Right.
done leather work on it. There's foam smithing in it. There's so much that I'm trying to expand my horizons
Yeah.
with this one instead of just foam smithing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if you ever go to a contest, they'll tell you that. I hate being a judge because we had two girls come up and had on awesome dresses,
Right.
and she had spent months working on that dress, and she didn't win. She came up after the contest and wanted to know, why didn't I win?
Right.
Y'all told me it was perfect. And we're like, it is perfect. You didn't do anything wrong. You could sell these things. It is amazing. But the other girl sewed her dress, also did epoxy resin work, made crystals, also did foam smithing to make little armor pieces, also did,
Yeah.
more than just sewing.
Right.
So if I ever plan on entering a contest, I now know, start adding in all these.
Extra
Don't just
stuff.
do foam smithing.
Yeah,
Add in
absolutely.
some electronics, add in some sewing, add in,
Yeah.
because every bit of it adds up.
Yeah.
So
That
I'm
brings
just
up a
trying to expand my horizons going forward.
I love the fact that you are doing that. That this isn't just a stagnant thing. That you're adding new skills to it. And you're learning all the time, which kind of leads into the next question: like, what has been the most difficult or challenging cosplay to make for you? I know you're constantly adding new elements. You've added, foam sifting, and now you got a new 3D printer and all that stuff. But what's been the most challenging thing for you to put together?
Well, the foam smithing, like the Nucatron, the Mayor of Halloween Town, they were time consuming,
Mm-hmm.
but it's just because there was a lot to them.
Right.
The hardest to do has been the mind flayer
No,
because of all the different techniques that I've had to do and
that
his
makes sense.
props.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have a glowing staff that pulses that I made the gem. I poured the epoxy resin molds myself.
Word.
You know, he carries a mimic chest with him, this big old treasure chest that is a creature with a mouth full of teeth and a tongue.
Right.
And I had to make each tooth individually, and it's like 100 teeth on it. And so it's been the most time consuming, hardest because it's got wiring in there. His lights, his eyes glow with lights. He's got fans built in him. The sewing of the tentacles, the dipping in them
Right.
into the plasta dip. There's just so many different techniques that it's like I said. That's why I still haven't even finished it yet.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I have a he wears this little jar on his side that's a prop from the game. He has a book that glows that looks like the Necronomicon Book of the Dead
I
on
remember
one side
seeing
that
the book
glows.
at Geek'd. That's
It's
amazing.
another quest item from the game. So it's more to it than just a costume.
Right. Right.
Just like when I did the mayor, I didn't just make the mayor of Halloween Town. I pretty much did a walking diorama.
Right.
I have like the dog from Nightmare Before Christmas on there. I did a little Jack in the Box from the show.
Right.
I added other elements from it. So,
I
but
love it.
yeah, the mind flare is probably the hardest I've done out of the workshop.
That's awesome. That's so awesome. Everything you do, I love the passion you put behind it and everything that you've come together um to do what you do. And you and I talked a little bit about before, and last year at GeekCon we were just having a conversation about how cosplaying it brings kind of new life for people, and it brings a lot of encouragement. I remember I had the great opportunity. I met a young lady at GeekCon. Her name is
Liz,
Liz Wright, and yeah, Liz Wright. And
yep,
she came to our booth. She was nervous as could be, and my team and I we got to chat with her first for a minute, and she was showing us her cosplay, which was amazing. And she goes on to win the cosplay,
yes,
and
we awarded her Best of Show, and that is the first time I awarded her the Best of Show. I've awarded her the Best of Show at the Comic Con that I had put together. I helped bring a con to Monroe, Louisiana for the very first time. They've never
wow,
had a Comic Con. I got three colleges in Monroe. They never had one. In Louisiana Delta Community College,
yeah,
I have some friends there. They contacted me and said, "Hey, would you help us? You know, let us know what we need to do to make this happen. Would you help?" I'm like, "Sure." And I brought in some friends, and
yeah,
they did a great job of pulling it all together in pretty much a really short time frame. And I am the cosplay director for them.
right,
Uh, the cosplay director or cosplay host for the Louisiana uh, retro cons
right,
down in South Louisiana and
okay,
the Crafticon down in South Louisiana.
yeah.
So
You're all over the
I'm
place.
over all the cosplay. I'm bringing in the cosplay guests, and I'm the judge, so
Right.
forth. And Liz hung out at my table at GeekCon as well,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
she's just really shy. And I find out, well, where I was going with that, which you'll see throughout this interview, where I will stumble because of my ADHD. I will
It's
just go
all good, man.
and take it off a whole nother different direction.
Right.
But Liz shows up at the Louisiana Delta Comic Con in Monroe
Uh-huh.
as Oogie Boogie from Nightmare Before
I
Christmas.
missed
And I'm
that.
like,
Oh my
no, you
gosh.
didn't. So I let the other judges come to their decision because I didn't want to be partial,
Right.
just because the character, but I hands down, it was the best thing that we had there that day.
Yeah.
And I'm like, y'all tell me what y'all are leaning towards. And they're like, oh, there's no question. And
I love it.
we awarded her best of show
Let's
there
go.
at that con too. After and the craziest thing is, I do all these cons from Pensacola to Dallas,
Right.
all over South Louisiana. I find out that that girl Liz lives down the road from me here in my own parish.
Oh
She
man.
she's actually we never knew we were well, backdoor neighbors almost within a
Right.
couple of miles of each other. I just thought that was absolutely insane finding out after the fact.
Oh, I love that
So,
so much. Well, one of the things I was gonna
but
say
yeah,
about her
she
was
was great. She just needed some encouragement.
yeah,
She's a quiet person she was pretty much there by herself, trying
right,
to make it all happen.
right.
And I know that feeling. I've been lucky now that I do have a team Kettlebriar's workshop, that follow me, that I couldn't do it without them. It is a
Right,
team effort now that I'm guesting all over the place. I gotta
right.
have people who help me set up, watch the table,
Yeah,
suit me up in these costumes, and
right.
I'm glad I have Paul. He helps me when I'm down south. I have Blair. She helps me out. You know, I couldn't do it without these other people. It is. I understand how hard it is to do it by yourself.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a lot of husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend teams, cosplay teams, but
Right.
when you're like her and you're just trying to go do all this by yourself,
Mm,
I see, how hard that can be.
yeah.
But yeah, she was a great individual, and I think she's going places in the cosplay community going forward for sure.
Oh,
She just come out of the gate with just massive talent.
swinging. Came out of the gate swinging. But what I loved about it is like you could see the difference in her like just post that event. There's a new light in her eyes, man. There was just revived passion and joy. And there's something about in the cosplay world where when somebody gets it, when they see your cosplay and they understand it, or they just take time to listen to you talk about it, because a lot of times when we cosplay, it's coming from a place of passion. There's something we love about it. I'll never forget years ago. I was one of the first geek cons I was at, and we're walking in, and there's this guy wearing a poncho that says security on it, and people are walking past him. They're not saying anything. And I look at him. I go, "It's not raining." And I go, are you supposed to be Bruce Willis from Unbreakable? He's like, yes. Like
Someone finally
people
got yeah.
walking past,
When
he's like,
someone
that's
finally
it.
gets it.
But it's that
So
light, man. That's that passion that pops up in people.
we we was at Fan Expo Dallas a few years ago, and my friend wanted to go as Doctor Who.
Mm,
And I'm like, "Okay, which one?" He said, "You have to ask. You know who my favorite one is." I'm like, "Really? No one's gonna get that." He
right.
wanted to be the 3rd Doctor from the 1970s,
Heck yeah.
John Pertwee, from,
Heck
like,
yes.
before we were born, I'm like, "No one's gonna get this, Stacy. No one's gonna get this." And, he dressed up, he walked around the corner, we entered the con, took the first right, first vendor booth there. People are like, "Oh my god, John Pertwee, Doctor Who!" And he looked at me with this nice smug look, and I'm like, "All right,
Right.
done." Because everywhere you go, you're gonna find someone who's into your fandom, and
Absolutely.
that's the whole beauty of the cosplay.
Right.
You will be able to share it. Someone will get it,
Yeah.
and when I do it, I've like I said, I've told you, yeah, we've had this talk before, although
Right.
I have high functioning anxiety and I get a little, but when I put on that costume, no one's judging John for the day,
Right.
you know? I'm whatever character for that day,
Right.
and it's liberating.
Yeah.
It's like
Absolutely.
therapeutic, being able to just go around and be that character for a day.
Yeah. Even if it's the low key cosplays that like they're alluding to something. I remember forget what was her name? You would know her. Donna Standridge, I believe is her name. And
Yes, yes.
she's a cosplayer. She's at GeekCon also, but she did a kind of a low key TARDIS Doctor Who cosplay. And
Yeah, we both did steampunk that day. She did a steampunk TARDIS dress that day, and it was absolutely amazing.
yeah. What was it? I missed yours that day.
I love
What?
original stuff when people come up with their own take on things like that.
Yeah,
Because I mean, I'm not I never want to knock anyone from their fandom,
sure.
but I don't want to be the next Deadpool in a room. I don't want to be the next Harley Quinn
I
at a
got you.
convention because you see them by the dozens and dozens, and if that's your if that's your jam, go for it.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm not knocking that, but I like to do unique things that I've never seen before. Every
yeah.
one of my costumes that I've come up with is I did them because I've never seen anyone else do them before ever.
Right.
And when she did that with that steampunk
Yeah,
original dress, that's the kind of stuff I like to see is when people do their own take on things.
absolutely.
That was fantastic.
It's good stuff, man. And again, it was low key, but it was so and it when the people who got it, again, this is one of the reasons I love GeekCon and events like that, is that you're finally in a space where people get it and they understand. And then you have those light bulb moments of where people go recognize things and we're connecting. Even if it is something mass. I never forget a couple years ago, I think it was during the COVID con that we did for Geek God, but there was literally, are you familiar with My Hero Academia, the anime?
Yeah. Yes.
There, brother, there were at least 100 kids running around dressed up in the uniform, the school uniform, and they found each other and they were running around. I know a couple people were kind of annoyed, but I loved it because these kids were like, "We're here." They didn't know each other, but they had instant community.
But
And
you do that bonding.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
and that's any of them. You see another Star Wars character, you're there. You see
Yeah,
another Ghostbuster, you're part of their community now. I mean, whether you know them or not, that's
exactly.
any of the fandoms. It's great. It's fantastic, and that's what I love about the cosplay community, how it
Word,
brings all these people together.
word.
I've talked about I had a rough time after I've lost my dad,
Right.
and I had just lost my brother,
Mm,
and this was, year before last now.
hmm.
I always go to a con with my crew.
Right.
I went to a con in Mississippi that I'd never been to before. They had to work. I went by myself, and I wore my Star Wars outfit, was walking around with Grogu. I was in a bad place. I really was.
Yeah.
I went to get my mind off things
Sure.
because, after losing him and I just needed to get my mind off stuff, and I went, and it wasn't the best time I've had at a con, and, someone wanted a picture with me with Grogu. I set my prop down in front of me on the floor, and we did the picture, and then someone walked by and knocked him over.
Oh man.
So, I had to bend over to pick him up while wearing that
Yeah.
outfit. It's actually a chore. I can barely sit down wearing that armor, and when I bent over, I went, made
Yeah.
that audible old man noise trying to pick him up off the floor, and there was this little group, about, I don't know, 5 or 6 little Japanese anime teeny bopper teenagers over here beside me, and they went, "Oh, that's pathetic. He's too old.
Oh
Why does
Lord.
he even come to these things?" And they're sitting here within earshot saying all this,
Ugh.
you know?
Yeah,
It's just so sad, and I'm like, "Wow, that's really what I needed to hear."
man.
And about 5 minutes after that incident, I had given up cosplay forever.
Mm,
I wasn't just leaving the con that day, going to my vehicle. I had thrown in the towel
man.
because I was in a bad place.
Yeah,
And I had a friend with the 501st Star Wars group.
yeah.
Uh, she approached me when I was ready to leave. I was dressed as a Star Wars Imperial Inquisitor. She pretty much dresses as the only other Star Wars Imperial Inquisitor in the state of Louisiana that I've come across. And their Darth Vader always wants to walk around with a stormtrooper on one side and a stormtrooper on, like, bookends,
Right, right.
follow him all over the con. And he said when he found out I was there, he's like, "Hey, well, I'm going to get the Inquisitors to walk on both sides of me. Go get John." So she came to get me. She got changed into her outfit, and they took me in that day.
Yeah,
Even though I'm not a member of the 501st, let me make that perfectly clear.
right.
They're their own little
They
group,
got very
their
distinct
organization.
stuff they gotta do.
And yeah, very stringent guidelines to get in, but they open arm accepted me, asked me to join them for that day. walked around all day, changed my mood,
Yeah.
sat there, invited me out to eat with them that night. We went and hung out that night and ate and just
So
totally.
good.
That's the cosplay community I love. That's what
Yeah.
I'm talking about. You
Absolutely.
know, that sharing your fandom can bring people together and people will be there for you. And
Word.
that's what I've always tried to do at cons. You
Yeah.
know, I was at Dallas one time at a con and I saw a man swaying against the back wall. He was dressed as Iron Man War Machine, full
Wow.
costume, the faceplate even.
Yeah. Wow.
And he was swaying and he started sliding down the wall. Like just you could tell he was passing out.
Oh man.
He had overheated. He wasn't staying hydrated.
Right.
We couldn't figure out how to get the mask off. I know I broke it trying to get it off because we couldn't figure out how to get it to open. But
Right.
at that point, what do you do?
Yeah, exactly.
Costume or life?
Yeah, yeah.
And they got the EMTs to come over and they were giving him Gatorade and trying to rehydrate him and all that. And I'm like,
Right.
you know, I, I've sweated. I've sweated in some costumes for sure. I've been there,
Right.
and I'm like, we can't have this.
Right.
So when I started guesting, every time I've ever guested, I've got snacks, I've got water, bottled water, Gatorade, whatever,
Word.
And if I see someone in a big hot costume, I'm like, come over here.
Right.
Are you all right? Do you need to take a seat? Stay hydrated. Have
Yeah.
some water. Are you peckish? You need a little snack bar or protein bar or something.
Right.
And I've always watched out. I've always made my tables, my booths when I guess a safe spot because
Yeah.
I've had a lot of little girls that people will be creeping on them, following them around.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, come hang out over here if someone's following you around, let me know. I'll
Yeah.
take care of it. And
Yeah. Well, that brings us to the thing that I love is one of the things that people call you is kind of the con dad. You're as a con, you become like a father figure to the community as a whole, helping people where they're at. And I appreciate the fact that it comes from a genuine place. It comes from you've been there and you do that. What does that look like? How do you? I know you said you have a booth there, but how do you establish that rapport with people where they know, hey, this is a safe place to be for them to connect
I'll,
with
I'll
you?
I'll put it out there. I make posts before I go to a con. I'll put
Right.
it all over my social media. I'm
All right. So we had some technical difficulties and we got lost in I don't know cyberspace somewhere, but we're back again. John, we were in the middle of talking about you're creating a space for people at your booth that you're at to where it's safe for people to be at. And not just that, but like you provide water. I hear you provide needle and thread for storing stuff.
Well, see, yeah, that started before I was ever
Okay.
guesting. I would always carry a cosplay
Oh,
repair
that's cool.
kit in my cargo pocket or my people who walked
Right.
with me because one of them they never dress up.
Ah,
They're just there as a handler and to help
right.
out, take pictures and all
Right.
that. Uh, and I keep this cosplay repair kit, super glue, thread, needle, and so forth. Just any little thing, tape, duct tape, anything you can
Right.
imagine, I have in that bag. So that's how it got
Right.
started. Is I repaired so many people's costumes, especially right before, like something would break right before they're about to go get judged for the contest or something, and I just kept helping people out all over the place, and just being, cosplay
Right.
repairman, and and so I carried that over, and now I have a much bigger kit, hot glue gun, and
Wow.
everything else. If if I'm lucky enough to be guesting at a con and have a
Right.
table, yeah, I take the whole kit and caboodle now, and I'll advertise that all over social media. Hey, if you need a safe space or just whatever, a place to sit down a minute, because at cons you can't usually find a place to sit down, and if you're in a nice hot cosplay, you want to get off your feet a few minutes. It's like, come by, I'll give you
Yeah.
my chair.
So good.
If I
Yeah.
have a
Yeah.
table. So yeah, I just started putting it out there that safe spot, drinks, food,
Right.
whatever. Come fix your cosplay. Just hang out,
Word.
talk. Get off your feet a minute, and thus Con Dad was born. I guess that's I started hearing people come up to me and referring to me as
Right.
that, and I I mean I'm honored and humbled that people see me in
Yeah.
that light. It could be worse. They could call me Con Granddad, but you know, I I'm fine. I'm fine with Con
Right.
Dad. In fact, I'm starting to do my own events now, and the LLC is Condad
Oh,
Events
that's cool.
LLC.
I love that.
So
So good, man. Well, let me ask you this, like, what advice would you give to people to help create a safe place, to create an environment on the con floor for people? Perhaps there's a con they're going to and they don't have there's not a con data locally right there. You're not there. And, again, Celeste, we do something very similar. We make sure our booth is a safe place for people if they need to just decompress or, it's just loud on the con floor. They just need a moment to rest for a moment. But what are some advice you give for cosplayers who are they're winging it? They may or may not have a person with them.
find your
Yeah.
brethren, find those fellow fandom
Mhm.
people. If you're from a particular TV show or something, like I said, if you're Star Wars, you can go over to the 501st. They will take you in. You're part of their family. And like you said, how all the people showed up with My Hero Academia. Find people that share your fandom. If you see, if you're dressed as Doctor Who and you see some other Doctor Who person there, I guarantee you they're going to take you in and be your friend and watch
Right.
over you. And that's any of them. Another Spider-Man, another Deadpool, whatever. You know, they anyone in your fandom. I've seen at cons. They're so welcoming. We are very lucky in the state of Louisiana. We have a group that's called Louisiana
Yeah.
Cosplayers, and they usually have a table at every convention. And at their table, it's a safe
Word.
spot. They have cosplay repair items as well. You can always go there. I don't know about other states, but I know we are lucky enough to have them in their group. They
Yeah.
volunteer, and they're at pretty much every bigger con that I've been to. I've always seen them
Absolutely.
there. So it's a growing
Right.
thing now about cosplay's not
Right.
consent. We're past all that. I mean, I've lived through the the times when it was just
Yeah.
creepy people following around the girls in the scantily clad
Right.
costumes, But luckily, we're getting past that hump. I think. I mean, it's still gonna. There's still always going to be one
Yeah.
creep out there in the crowd, and I hate to say that, but it's the world we
Right.
live in. I'm law enforcement. I I see that stuff every day. I mean, I have a desk
Right.
job, but
Still.
it's still. Uh, but once again, you just go up. You will find someone in your fandom that will take you in. That would be my
Word.
recommendation.
Good
You
deal.
know, there's plenty of vendors there. If you're a younger cosplayer, a teenager, there's going to be adult vendors there. Go strike up a conversation
Right.
with one. They're going to sit there and go, oh well, you want to sit down here a minute and get away from whatever. I mean, like I said, it is a welcoming community that I have
Right.
seen.
Absolutely.
So I don't think anyone's ever going to turn
Right.
someone away.
Exactly. Especially if you come with the
You
right
know.
spirit of things, just like, hey, let me have a seat. But like, you're showing genuine interest in there. So good stuff. Well, John, how can people find you? How can they support you? How can they take part in Kettlebriar's workshop and Condat events, apparently? So what's all the stuff?
Well, kettlebriar.com. That go back to Kettlebriar. Uh, the name actually is a character that I played in a role playing game many, many years ago. And I see all these cosplay names out there, and there's a lot of them that are almost just similar to one
Right.
another. And I'm like, ain't nobody going to use the word Kettlebriar because I
Right.
made it up. It's just, it ain't from a TV show or movie. It's just pulled it out
Right.
the air. So, years ago, I made kettlebriar.com.
Right.
Uh, I'm at Kettlebriar on
Uh,
Instagram, Kettlebriar's Workshop on Facebook, but I sort of get tired of having two Facebooks. I've almost pretty much turned my private one, my John
right.
Stout one, into my cosplay one because I get tired of posting back
Right.
and forth on two different ones. But yeah, I just got through updating the website. We're announcing we have Louisiana Comic Con coming
Right.
up uh, in March. I will be guesting at the Cajun Dome in
Word.
Lafayette. I have one of my own events. in Lafayette coming up. It's called the the Lafayette Cosplay
Oh, wow.
Prom. And I really do this for the cosplayers. I've seen cosplay proms across the nation. It's not a new idea, but it's an idea that I love. Jeff Bright, he brought them originally to Louisiana, and he's moved on
Right.
since. And I've taken it over. And the prom is just it's for the cosplayers, and it's 18
Right.
and up. It's not for kids. It's just a night when we're at these conventions. You don't have time to just sit there and
Right.
talk
Right.
shop. It's like, I got to go do this panel. I got to go do some judging, and you're back and forth all over, and you don't have time just to go, hey, how
Yeah.
did you
Yeah.
build
Yeah.
that? Talking to other cosplayers, you just don't have the time. So the cosplay prom, we crown a king and queen at the end of the night of the prom. It is a
That's
dance,
awesome.
but in costume. Everyone shows up in costume. All the local cosplayers. It's just a night for them to hang out and talk shop and have a good time outside a convention
Right.
environment. And I give door prizes. We and they're all cosplay related, like new hot glue
Right.
gun, new airbrush system, for
I love
painting,
this
and
so much.
and
This is
we
gold.
even do a little cosplay
Right.
contest, just like a little runway, nothing, no like super craftsmanship or
Right.
nothing like that. Just we just have fun with it. And I've told this story before, but last year, my date, uh, she's the one that helps me with the conventions in South Louisiana, goes with me and watches my tables and so forth. Uh, she does horror makeup
Oh, wow.
effects for movies and such in her spare time. She's an esthetician by trade. And I said, what are you going as? And she's like, well, if you're taking me to prom, what do you think I'm going as? And she, of course, I have to lay down plastic in my truck over my seats to not get blood everywhere, because she decides to go as Carrie.
What?
So she goes as Carrie to the prom, and guess who got crowned queen of the prom at the end of the
Wow.
night? So that that was
That is.
interesting. And I didn't get king. I can't say I got king. But Davey Lusko, who does he's the director of the Louisiana RetroCon
Okay.
conventions. He holds those. He got crowned king of the
Oh, that's
prom
cool.
that night, and it was just a great time. And I'm carrying it forward. I'm doing one in Lafayette this year, and I'm branching out, and I'm going to try and start doing them New Orleans, maybe Lake Charles, Baton
Yeah.
Rouge, and maybe come up to your neck of the
Come
woods in
on, bro.
Shreveport. I know it probably wouldn't fly here where I'm at. There's just not a big enough
Right.
market of cosplayers to to
Right.
do it. And going forward, a lot of people have said, "Why haven't you had your own con yet?" And I was getting ready to do my own con up here. Like I said, we had 3 colleges, and we've never had a Comic
Right.
Con before. And then I worked with Louisiana Delta Community College, and we managed to get that one started up here. One day event, 1,000 people showed up to the
That's
door.
awesome.
We were like,
That is so
"Wow!"
good.
So, had they not come to me over that, I would have had my own up here. And I can't say I'm not considering, it's been being discussed that I'm looking at possibly, in 26, possibly doing the Louisiana Anime and Cosplay
What?
Expo in New Orleans. Like, and I'm not talking some little held in a high
Yeah.
school
Yeah.
gym kind of event, one of these little I'm talking full
Wow.
blown, the whole kit
Come
and
on,
caboodle.
dude.
So we'll see where that goes. See if it actually gets traction and
Right.
takes off. Well,
That's cool, though.
we can always hope, because I like doing stuff for the cosplay
Word.
community. I love it. I was talking with Greg Adams the other night about what to do with the cosplay scene up at the GeekCon. Now that he's going into the
Let's
10th
go.
anniversary for GeekCon this year. It is
Yeah.
amazing. I love that con, and hopefully I'll be able to help him with the whole cosplay aspect of this con
Right.
this year. I got to be a guest last year, and we made a few changes with the contest and so forth, and it went over. It went over
Word.
fantastic. So that's all I can hope for, is to keep helping people in the
I
cosplay
love it so
community.
much, man. I love it so much. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of our show for today. But I want to encourage you guys, all the links to all of John's stuff are in the description on YouTube and also in the podcast feed. I want to encourage you guys to connect with him. He is genuinely a fun person to talk to, and I've enjoyed having this conversation with you tonight, John.
And y'all just, you and Celeste, keep doing what y'all do. I'm happy every time I see y'all at a con. I wish y'all could get out to more
man,
cons.
that's the dream. One day we're gonna be out there with you, man. But ladies and gentlemen, for reals, I want to encourage you guys, please check out John and check out what he's doing. And I want to encourage those of you in the cosplay community. He is one of those people who are out there trying to make a difference in the community as a whole, not just the cosplay community, but just cons and everything. There's an environment, and the more people like John and us and other people who come around and they're creating a vibe that's just chill and encouraging, and that we're just looking at each other and going, hey, you're cared for and there's purpose in your life, the better these events can be as a whole. And I really appreciate you, John, doing that for us. John, you know how we did in the show. We end it every time saying stay devoted, peace and love. So we're going to start off. I want you to wrap it up for us. Ladies and gentlemen, stay devoted.
Peace and love. Okay,
there we go.
gotcha.
Ladies and gentlemen, have a good night.